It's great to see you all. Good afternoon. It's so nice to see all of your faces. And I'm so pleased to come together for this study of Psalms. We had a part one at a Days of Learning earlier this year. And so we're going to develop some of our thinking together. First of all, thank you to Jerry Silverman for being our Zoom facilitation partner. Thank you to Malka Meister and Ellen Poster and all of your team for making all of this happen. And thanks to all of you for prioritizing this in your day. It's so good to be together. So I think we're going to begin with the blessing for the study of Torah. Jerry, is that you or me? I'm one
step ahead of you.
You really are. You really are. All right. So my friend Jerry Silverman taught me that this is one of those things we can unmute for, because sometimes it's fun just to hear the cacophony of our voices in the sound of reciting blessings. So I welcome you to unmute if you would like. I'll use the cursor to keep us together. It won't work, but in our hearts, we'll know we're together. And we will together thank God for this mitzvah of joining together in the words of Torah and engaging in our tradition together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. All right. And if you would, let's just take a moment if you are accessing your chat today, take a moment and scroll through the names that you see in the participants. See if there's a name there you don't yet know. Go ahead and introduce yourself and say hello. And if someone's reached out to you, you can go ahead and respond. Doesn't always work perfectly, but worth a try. Okay. And can everyone just check your name on your Zoom tile to make sure it's the name you want me and others to refer to you by? Thanks.
Okay.
All right. So oh, good. You got the closed captioning? Terrific. Thanks, Jerry. The title of our class, I think, is an immediate revelation on some of my thoughts around actually much of our tradition, but in particular, the book of Psalms. And that is, there are so many experiences in the human condition for which we might seek language. And there may be no perfect human language or perfect human metaphor, but so often the values-driven and historically rooted language in our tradition, such as the book of Psalms, helps me find language and can help us find expression. And I think that that's a wonderful role of religion. And you know, one of the ways we distinguish different religions is by distinguishing different metaphors, different language that the traditions choose. None of them are right or wrong, but just different tools that we use to seek out the truth. So I'd like to start with just a little bit of review of the foundations we began with last time. I think that this pandemic and now the transition that we are experiencing, things are changing. Even just in the last couple of days, things are changing. So the isolation and the stagnation for some of us in life, I think, is now this new attempt to imagine what does the next phase of our lives look like. In all of that, we have the opportunity not necessarily to control our surroundings, but to control our response. And our response to all of these really heavy pieces of our lives right now, I think, can be spiritual and intellectual growth. And that's exciting to see as we come together in study. And so I want to put out to you the question: how would we characterize our feelings about this particular moment in the pandemic journey, this last week of April, and what it's brought and what we're coming out of? What are some of the feelings or expressions or experiences? What are some of the emotions that you would use to characterize where we are now? What are your thoughts? If you want, you can raise your hand in person or raise your hand digitally. I see Ben Sion's hand.
Yes, definitely relief and gratitude. And the relief and gratitude are due to the fact that Jane and I can walk outside, not in the crowd, not indoors, but just outside without a mask. And boy, does that feel good.
Wow, that's wonderful. I think relief is really helpful. And I see, Jamie, thank you for your word that you contributed in the chat, hesitancy, because even in Ben Sion's description, it was not in a big crowd and not, right, there are all of these social distancing cautions we still need to keep in mind. And yet we do have some new possibilities. And I'm with you, Ben Sion. But I love that additional hesitancy.
And
others.
Yeah, I
Jane.
have a kind of concern and anticipation. How is the world going to be after this lockdown? Will I still have the same friends? Will we be able to get together? Are people going to be hesitant? How long will it take for people to get over what we've been through?
Yeah, I'm with you, Jane. What is the next? What is this next world? What does our life look like in its next chapter? Yes. All right, thanks. Other thoughts, Malka?
In addition to relief, a new kind of anxiety for me is, well, with all these new variants, what's happening in India, so it would appear that we're a little safe, but then we're less safe. So it's this incredible uncertainty and for me, some fear.
Yeah. She was frozen, Rabbi.
Yeah. Rabbi, are you frozen?
Yeah.
Gail, was it something you said?
Right.
Whoa,
We've lost the rabbi.
yeah.
Wow, this is serious.
Yeah, very serious.
Talk about terror.
We have to figure out how to do this ourselves.
Come back.
Who wants to be in charge?
Actually, the oldest person.
Ellen,
I want
Okay, who would that be?
Gonna get
Let's-
very quiet.
I want to be in charge.
Don't be shy. Oh, Danny, are you raising your hand? You want to be
Yeah.
in charge? Go ahead, go for it.
What are we talking about? Balls? Welcome to balls.
Whatever you want. The rabbi's not here. You can talk about anything.
I can talk about anything. Okay.
No, let's not go that way.
yeah,
I do
I'd
think-
say Gail and Ellen, what's your favorite psalm?
Well, can we just pick?
Or Muriel, people
keep
who've
going.
been,
If we keep going where the rabbi was going, I
Yeah.
think it was to identify a whole range of emotions and sort of mindsets that we might find ourselves in. I think we've begun to sort of talk about some of the ends. And I think she was then going to have us welcome us to see those very same things in Psalms. Alice, now you.
Good. That sounds wonderful. Which Psalm?
We didn't get that far.
If I can just interrupt for a second, Jerry, is there anything you can do on your end to try to connect with Rabbi Maderer and see what we could do?
Not a thing. I can.
You
I mean, I
call-
can
can
send
you
her
call
an
her?
email. I could call her, but you could too. But I'd rather somebody else do it because like I only have 2 hands and 4 eyes. So
Do you think she knows that she's not being
I'm sure,
heard?
I'm sure she. I'm
She
sure
does.
she does.
Sure, she's figured it out.
Yeah.
Can Gail or Ellen?
I'll try to call the synagogue office and maybe they can get in touch with her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gail.
I gotta mind the store here.
In the meantime, I'll kick in with the fact that I think we've gone through such a level of understanding personally how we respond to adversity that's totally different for most of us in this lifetime, what fears have been built, and then how we feel resilient, but how we start to decrease the level of fear, staying safe while we still need to consider some safety.
Oh, she's
Here.
back. She's back.
Am I the only one who got lost?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. I'm so glad you continued. Well done, friends. Nice. Nice. Okay. What, who can capture what I missed just so briefly? Are there a couple of words, just single words that can give me an idea? Who can just pop in a couple of words that can give me an idea about where we're feeling in this moment?
Fear, resilience,
Thank you. Thanks, Nancy. Resilience. What was the first word you just used?
fear.
Fear. Great. Thank you.
We still have unknowns that we're facing, I think.
Yes. We still have unknowns. I think we legitimately have unknowns because the science is still unfolding. I'll add for myself, we still have unknowns because there are always unknowns in life. And I think we've been awakened to that. Muriel.
So I'm aware that I have a sense of calm. I'm thinking, I managed this year. It's been fun. I don't want to say it's been great, but it's gone very well for me. And so I kind of feel, well, now I'm vaccinated. My family, except for the youngest one, they're vaccinated. I just feel along with relief, I feel calm.
You did it. You made it.
Yeah.
I hear that.
What's interesting to me is that we all seem to feel so much better now that we're vaccinated, that we're back to the way we were before this whole thing started. But people didn't appreciate how good life was until the threat of the virus came along. And now that it's being believed, you just have this feeling of euphoria in a way.
Huh.
But we were there before, we didn't appreciate it.
Well,
We
but
didn't
Len,
make a profound connection to it.
yeah. Len, are you saying that do you feel a sense that we are now at risk of losing that deeper understanding once again? Or is it just added? Is this
I don't
just
think
added?
that I am, but I can't.
Just
speak
raise
for others.
hand, touch raise hand.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. Let's all just a reminder to mute if you're not actually speaking. Good. I think I hear this gratitude, relief. I'm not sure if anyone used the word anxiety, but I hear that a bit from what we're saying in the uncertainty, resilience, fear, anticipation, all really helpful. Bension and Jean, is your hand up? Just unmute now.
I guess I still feel vulnerable. I
Yeah.
always thought that no, nothing much would hit me. I have good health, and we have a family history of longevity, and I'll live a long time. Nothing physical ever bothered me much, but now I don't feel that way. I feel vulnerable.
Very fair. Thank you. It's interesting. I've seen a lot of that, and in my own life, maybe it's just because I see a lot, who knows, or it's just different personalities, but for myself personally, I've always felt that. I've always felt like tomorrow is not guaranteed. And not necessarily in a depressing or morbid way, just in this is reality, and don't miss it. Don't miss whatever is offered in this life, and don't miss the meaning. And the vulnerability I'm finding now is there was an interesting, some months ago, there was an interesting different generational experience, because the folks who were older in my life were the folks I felt so cautious to protect. And now those were the first folks to get vaccinated. And now it's my kids who are the ones in my life who are actually the most at risk, because the vaccine's not yet available for them. And that generational switch, I think, is being felt by many. And I'm so happy for the people who have been vaccinated, but not every generation is there yet, of course. Was that a Naomi Wisnia we got to see in the background? Cool. Hey, Naomi. Great. Nancy, did you have a comment?
One of the things, because you've mentioned the generations just now, that I feel that's a big difference is a certain age and younger among children are not going to be remembering this that much. At the same time, for those of us in the beginning who are older, who got vaccinated first, we oldies, and it was supposed to be 2 or 3 weeks, then 2 or 3 months, and now it's way over a year, and it's still going to continue to affect us through most of this calendar year, is the sense of loss. We are not going to get that time back. And at this time of life, I'm 77, I feel lousy about having lost this much time that somebody just grabbed away from me, and getting back to feeling grateful for what life is still yet to come, and recovering, from that sense of loss that I think a lot of people have been feeling and will for a while.
I really hear that. And I think that that's very interesting, next to the earlier comment that Shelley made about a hesitancy or anxiety about losing some of what we've gained this year, that there are certain lessons. It could be solitude in the positive sense and how it's contributed to our life. It could be spiritual journey. It could be productivity. It could be new perspective. There's that tension. What from this year do I want to bring into the future with me, even if it's just wisdom or lessons? Yeah, I agree, Jamie. Whether or not they remember the details, this is a part of what has shaped this generation with you. All right, let's take a look. A reminder to just be on mute if you're not speaking. Oh, Malka, is your hand up? Yes, go ahead.
In terms of the gratitude of what we've been able to gain, I'd forgotten about that, but the Zoom, the opportunity to participate in so many different experiences online has been a wonderful thing, and I hope we don't lose that going forward.
Yeah, we've learned so much, and I relate, Gail, what you're saying too. I just caught a chat from Madeline, the gratitude for ways we've grown, and thinking about social justice work, Black Lives Matter in particular. She said, how much can we make sure those commitments and those priorities remain top of mind? I agree, Madeline, there's no going back. There's only moving forward. Okay. And Muriel, not everybody felt a sense of loss. Some people felt new experiences this year. Amen. Amen. All right, let's set all those not too far aside, but just a little bit aside, and keeping those important perspectives in mind. A little more on the Psalms. So the book of Psalms is in the Tanakh. The Tanakh is the Hebrew Bible. Even when it's in translation, we Jews call it the Hebrew Bible. And the Tanakh is an acronym. That word is an acronym from the Hebrew, T standing for Torah, N for Nevi'im, meaning prophets, and K or KH for Ketuvim, meaning writings. And the book of Psalms is 150 chapters. Each chapter is one psalm, and it's also in Hebrew called Tehillim. And it's a demonstration, like so much of Jewish text, it's a demonstration of the power of words. Whose words, we don't know exactly, but it claims to be David's words. And sure, maybe it was probably written maybe around the time of the first temple period in ancient Jerusalem, which would be around the 6th or 7th or 8th century BCE, or maybe it was later in the time of return to Zion around 5th century BCE. Scholars love to debate what data in different texts demonstrates that it's from an earlier time or a later time. But it's old. It's old. So it's been with us for a long time. It's some of our earliest prayers of our people. And in it, I would suggest is almost every possible human expression or emotion. You could open the book of Psalms and just flip through and find something that expresses what's going on with you with just a few flips of the page. It could be joy, it could be fear, sadness, anxiety, worry, gratitude. And the other thing that's captured in the book of Psalms, not only that those personal expressions or emotions, but also moments of Jewish memory. There are 3 main Jewish points of memory: creation, revelation, and redemption. And the psalmist is an example for all of us in combining some personal expression and then finding some roots in Jewish memory. So creation is probably the most obvious of those words. Creation as in creation of the world. Revelation means revelation at Mount Sinai, revelation of Torah. And redemption means the story of the parting of the Sea of Reeds, the story of Pesach, of liberation. So, so redemption we celebrate at Pesach, at Passover, and then in the period of the Omer, which is our period right now, we anticipate the celebration of Revelation, which happens with the festival of Shavuot, and that's revelation, as in revealing the Torah. Much of the Psalms feels like poetry, and it shares a lot of traits with biblical poetry. One of the easiest that I think we'll be able to find today, I think I have an example for us, is to look for synonymous parallelism, where a verse has been said and then the next verse is said, and it's really the same point with maybe a flip of metaphors or something. But it's a little bit of repetition, which is unusual in the Tanakh outside of poetry, because Torah is so terse. So it's sort of an opportunity, the poetry of the Bible is sort of an opportunity to linger a little longer with some language. All right. So I would like to take a look at our first Psalm. So far, any particular like specific question that we shouldn't move on without clarity? Okay. Jerry, did you just spell out Tanakh in the chat for me? That's great. Thank you. That's terrific.
Yes, I'm your.
That's totally helpful. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great way to
check.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Oral and visual learning. You must be a teacher. So, all right. I'd like to look with you at Psalm 121. I am taking a translation from Rabbi Richard Levy's work, Songs Ascending, which is a beautiful collection. Rabbi Richard Levy died several years ago, so blessed memory. And this was his sort of final beautiful gift to the world. He was a teacher at Hebrew Union College in Los Angeles, so I didn't have him because I was at the New York campus, but he was beloved by his students. So, Jerry, I can screen share too, right?
You're the co-host, yeah.
All right, yes, I can. Okay, so let's see if I can do this a little prettier. Never mind. All right, it's good enough. So this is an excerpt from Psalm 121. And that's interesting that my spell check doesn't like it, a song of ascendings, but that's, I guess, what he wanted. So did I spell it wrong, or did they just not like the word ing with the ing? I'm not sure.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that but the spell check doesn't like it. That's okay. We'll live. It'll live. A song of ascendings. Psalm 121 may be one of those examples that is more familiar to some from the Hebrew than from the English because it's used as a song. So I'm going to just pop down for a moment to share the Hebrew. Oops. No, I'm not. Here. Shir Hamalot is the beginning of many psalms, but then if you see my cursor here, Esa Enai, or down in the transliteration, Esa Enai. This may be a familiar song to some. Esa Enai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Esa Enai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Ba'aretz. Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Ba'aretz. Maybe you've heard that on a Shabbat or maybe at High Holy Days. I sometimes sing that at a funeral. Sometimes I'll bring the English in as well with every other line. Let's take a look at this excerpt from the English. Would somebody like to read that English? Would like to read? I can't see you all because I'm sharing. But pop in if you'd like to read. Just unmute yourself and pop in.
A song of ascendings. I will raise my eyes to the mountains. From where will come my help? My help is from the realm of Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not allow your foot to slip. Your sentinel will not doze. Behold, the sentinel of Israel does not doze and does not sleep.
Thank you, Muriel. All right. Let's just pick apart some of the text together and appreciate some of the language together. My help is from the realm of Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Some translations could say my help is from, as this one does. It's also possible to translate it, my help is with. My help is with God, rather than my help is from God. The realm may just confuse. You can just eliminate that from this particular exercise. But my help is from God, or my help is with God. Any sense, any sense on what is the difference in meaning between saying my help is from God versus my help is with God? Any thoughts on that?
I think if it says with, there's some sense of personal agency. So.
Right, that all of the help or strength, it's not all coming from God. It's God and me together. There's some kind of maybe partnership. Maybe. Beautiful. Ellen, is your hand up?
I was just going to say, to me, it refers to partnership. So.
Oh, yes. You and I sometimes are on the same page. Other thoughts? How about any preferences? Do you feel like what you want from the psalm is to say from God, my help is from God, or my help is with God? Remembering the first verse too, right? The first verse, when I raise my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help will come from God, or my help will come with God. Are there preferences? Which do you like better? I'll stop the share.
Well, if you say from, the first verse doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense if you carry it through.
Yeah. And I think that's why the translator is using from, because the first verse says,
from
where does my help come from?
Yeah, otherwise you'd say with where does my, I mean, that doesn't
Right.
really mean anything.
Good. So there are preferences because of the literature or the literary needs there. And then there may be theological preferences that could be the same or different. Other thoughts? Malka?
But I believe the Hebrew me'im Adonai is from with God. So it sounds to me, and then that's very surprising, and I kind of like it that it's from being with God, not even that we're doing it together, but whatever I'm into, God is with me, is what I'm getting out of it this time.
Beautiful. Almost from being with God, if you were to use more words. Beautiful. Benzion.
Well, our tradition offers two ideas about God. One is the very transcendent God, way out there, creator, untouchable, ineffable. The other is immanent, like close by, touchable, personal. So we can choose either or both, which it's a paradox, but so be it.
Yeah. So does that, yeah, so be it. Absolutely. The more the merrier when it comes to God ideas in Judaism. But in those, Benzion, are you saying you relate the from and the with to those?
I want an immanent God, somebody close, not far away.
Got it. Got it. All right. I'm going to screen share again and just study a little more. When you look at the text, can you find some of that synonymous parallelism? Can you find some of that poetry where you would say, that's repeating the same idea with different language? Who sees what in what verse do you see? Ellen Pastor?
Where is the basic router?
I see.
Keep losing.
Benzion, you may need to mute. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Ellen, did you say something?
Yeah, it was, so where it says in verse 2, the realm of Adonai, and then it says maker of heaven and earth. So if you think of God's realm being everywhere, heaven, everything in between. So I think that's a parallel. And then in verse 4, behold, the sentinel of Israel does not doze and does not sleep. So I think those are two examples of it.
Great. Thanks, Ellen. So Davi, did you see another example?
Yes. Verse 1, it says, I will raise my eyes. And then verse 4 is, sentinel of Israel does not doze.
Oh, interesting, because of your eyes being open when you're awake. Is that what you mean? Oh, I love, that's beautiful. I don't think that is synonymous parallelism in the pure sense, because it's spread out and it's not, it doesn't give you an exact parallel within the rhythm of it. But that is a beautiful poetic lens to bring to the whole passage. Absolutely. Any others that we missed? Any other parallels where it's a little closer together?
It seems to go from one verse to the next, repeating. So it's the help, where will my help come? Then my help is from, and then heaven and earth and maker of heaven and earth, God will not allow. Then sentinel will not doze, and then it iterates what more it's not going to do. It's not only not going to doze, it's not going to sleep.
Yeah.
I like the distinction between doze and sleep.
Jessica?
I also think that there's a parallel between your sentinel will not doze and the sentinel of Israel does not doze and does not sleep. So changing it from being like a personal your to the idea of the people of Israel.
Yeah, thank you. I think verse 3 is important in that as well. And so we'd gotten to verse 4, and I think we'd skipped verse 3. So I'm glad you brought it back in. God will not allow your foot to sleep. Your sentinel will not doze. Sentinels, it's a funny, I don't know, I've never seen that translation before, but Rabbi Levy said he liked it because he wanted to use a lot of S's, because there are a lot of S sounds in the Hebrew, actually. So he was just playing with that. but there's a lot of God won't sleep on the job, right? And that's repeated in a lot of different ways here. Thank you. All right. Another look at the text now from that question of the approach that so many Psalms take in bringing in something of Jewish memory. So Jewish memory, remember, involves creation. The main points of Jewish memory are creation, revelation, redemption. Do you see here something of any of those points of Jewish memory? Creation, revelation, redemption. A reminder, redemption is the crossing of the sea and the liberation of the people in the Passover story. Revelation is the revelation of Torah at Mount Sinai. Anybody see something? Sadavi.
I will raise my eyes to the mountains. So it's Revelation at Mount Sinai.
Ooh, interesting. In Psalm 121, it's any mountains, but you have that Jewish language going through your mind where you see mountain and you go to one of the mountains from our story, Mount Sinai. Beautiful. Any others that stand out? Any others? Yeah, Sadavi.
Maker of heaven and earth, so that would be creation.
Exactly. Maker of heaven and earth is a name of God as creator. And so that brings us back to God's role as creator, this Jewish memory of creation. And so in Psalm 121, yes, there's a personal expression here. There is, perhaps I have a time of need, perhaps I have concern or fear or loss. And in that need, I, as an individual, might have comfort in these words. But the connection to Jewish memory, the maker of heaven and earth, that this is something of a larger story, it means it's not just me. It's not just me and my emotion. I'm a part of something greater than myself. And I'm a part of this Jewish thing, this Jewish language. All right.
I have a thought.
Yes.
It could be also redemption. Ooh, I just lost the words. I guess you took
do you
it.
want it back?
But that's okay.
I was looking for you.
Because it's like God as a sentinel, a watchman, somebody who protects you, who maybe protected the Jewish or the were they Jews then in Egypt? my language isn't good. My history.
Yeah.
But because the plague, because it passed over the Jewish homes, so there was protection there. And leaving Egypt, there was protection, getting across the Red Sea. So I think of the Passover story as the Jews were protected as they ran away from Egypt. And this psalm, the words at the end sounds like protection because it's the sentinel, like a watchman of Israel, does not doze.
Yeah, and just building on that, wasn't the angel of death passing over at night while everyone slept?
Well, everyone slept. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Beautiful. So you're bringing in these pieces that this could be beautiful language if you don't have that background, but you're bringing in our story and it just deepens the whole text. Beautiful. All right. For this study, I decided to bring in some contemporary Psalm texts as well. So the original classical book of Psalms has 150 Psalms in the book of Psalms in the Tanakh. And Psalms can also be a style, a style of writing now for today, a way to express ourselves with new words. And so I'd like to bring to you a few modern Psalms for us to take a look at as well. And I think for each of them, we'll really ask the same questions, which is, do we see a Jewish memory in here? Is there something here that's rooted in a Jewish memory? And what speaks to us in there? What speaks to us about the Psalm? So first of all, let's go back to Psalm 121 that we were just looking at. Are there ways that Psalm 121 speaks to you? Are there ways that you would say, it can be metaphor, it doesn't have to be literal. That's how it usually works, but here, I'll bring it back. Are there ways that it speaks to you? Could you see saying, I raise my eyes to the mountains, from where will come my help? Malka?
Well, I can see it in two ways. One is when you're feeling despair or vulnerable, is the word somebody used before, you would, look around all over, where is help? So I can relate to that. But the other one is the word sentinel. This is a strange application of it, but Greg had a malignant melanoma. Maybe those are redundancies, but a melanoma, so skin cancer, and they did a sentinel cell surgery. They do a surgery to look for a lymph node that would show signs of the cancer had spread. So it's like from the arm all the way up here, so under the arm, there's the sentinel node, and thank heavens, thank God it was okay. But the sentinel was really the protector, the barrier. So I'm relating to sentinel a lot.
So interesting that translation choice brings up that whole example for you. Wow. Yeah. Other ways for anyone else, does this language speak to you? Okay, we can move forward. Did I miss anybody? All right. So we'll say farewell to Psalm 121, to Esa Enai, and to BCE, and we'll skip forward several generations, and we're going to take a look at a piece from Alden Salovey. And this is in his book called This Grateful Heart, Psalms and Prayers for a New Day. He has several books of prayer and poetry, and from a Jewish point of view, but many of them are very universal in their descriptions. And this is one of his recent collections. I'm not sure if it's his most recent. So this will be over 2 pages. Who would like to read on the first slide? Who would like to read? You can just unmute and pop in.
To whom shall I give this grateful heart, this joy that shines through the center of my being? To you, my friends, who hold me, support me, and carry me along the way. To you, my God, source of strength and hope. To who shall I give these praising lips, this gladness that echoes from the depths of my voice? To you, my friends, who teach me, guide me, and honor me along the way. To you, my God, source of wisdom and truth.
Thank you. And now here's the second page. Who'd like to continue the part 2? Julia, do you want to continue?
To whom shall I give these powerful hands, this energy that infuses my bones and sinews? To you, my friends, together we will build this world into a temple of justice and peace. To you, my God, together we will bring the light of holiness and love. Blessed are you, my friends, in our moments of celebration together and our moments of service to each other. Blessed are you, God of all being, source of my life, creator of joy and gratitude.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you. Nice, Julia. Is that what you said? What are your thoughts? What's going through you?
I'm feeling so grateful to my friends right now that it touches me. Yeah. I think a lot of us through the pandemic had spent more time with people that we don't often see because we were able to arrange to see them virtually. And while it wasn't the same as seeing people in person, it was wonderful to reconnect. And they did, and those connections did bring me strength. So
thank you. So Alice, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a thought. So this is not a riff on Psalm 121, the Alden Salavi, is it? Because it's just
No.
It's not only there's God mentioned, but the friends part is what really comes out. And to me, that I agree with what Julia just said. To me, his feeling of the importance of friends. Did you just freeze, or did I just freeze? I don't know.
I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's a prayer to friendship and the connections between people. And he throws God in, but to me, it's about friendship.
I agree. Oh, I think that's what stands out. And to lift that up in the form of a psalm says a lot about how he feels about friendship, right? Where you almost, from what I'm hearing you say, Alice, through my freeze and everything, where you'd almost expect to see something of God, you're seeing friendship.
Yeah.
And what a way to honor that.
Yeah.
I actually have a question. Why do you think it's written in a future tense? And I also am, this is just anality, but why is there a grammar error to who? Is it a typo or?
It must be my typo. I saw that too when I thought there's no way he said to who.
No,
No.
he has whom everywhere. But why is it to whom shall I give? Why is he planning? It almost sounded to me, and of course this is where my mind would go. Was he preparing to die and leave behind the memory of this wonderful strength he had gotten from his friends and his world?
Not my read.
No,
it could be others. Not my read. I think. Well, does anybody else have a thought about that?
Without bringing that in, just why is it future tense?
Yeah. Why? Does anybody else have a thought about why is it to whom shall I? What do you think is interesting about that language, if anything?
can you put the text back up?
I just put it in the chat. Tell me if that's helpful.
Yeah.
I'm just experimenting because I miss your faces when I'm screen sharing.
Okay.
With the typos in there too.
Yeah.
But that first line, to whom shall? Any thoughts on that? I can tell you, Shelley, my own response to that is I picture someone, myself maybe, sitting down to prayer or sitting down to reflection, and that sets out my intention. Okay, like I'm saying in this moment, okay, to whom shall I direct this energy? To whom shall I devote my contemplation moments here? And so that's how I read it, but there could be other reads. Malka?
I'm thinking that it's a moment of exuberance. And when you're feeling so grateful, it's like it spills over and you want to share it. So that is where my mind would go on that line.
Yes. Jessica?
Yeah, I think that gratitude is like a continual thing that you feel, and setting it in future tense means that the work is still yet to be done, especially with what the speaker of the poem is giving, like understanding that relationship with your friends has continuity and you're like seeing a future.
Beautiful. All right. Did anyone find a, actually, maybe we'll go into just a short breakout room for this. And the chat will follow us into the breakout room if the chat likes me right now. And let's ask ourselves the two questions that we are bringing to the classical Psalms, which is there anything in this Psalm that's in the chat? Is there anything in this Psalm that is rooted in Jewish memory, creation, redemption, revelation being our main points of Jewish memory? That's the first question. And the second question is, in what way does this express something of me? Do I find some connection? Do these words resonate with me? Jerry, what do you think? Could we go into, I don't need to go into a room, but can you put everybody into breakout rooms for 5 minutes to try that?
Yeah, you said 7 before. You want to keep
7
it
is even better.
Okay, so I'll give you a 30-second warning before it's up, and I'm going to put the two questions in a broadcast that'll appear in the breakout rooms also.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope this works. Did it work? No? Yes?
Don't think so. I think we're all in one breakout room.
Okay, it was supposed to automatically assign, so apparently it did not. Hold on 1 second, let me try it again.
Did get your message.
Okay, well, that's better than nothing. Right? Okay, hold on a second here. It says assign automatically. Hold on, try it again. Wait a minute.
Take your time.
Yep, thank you. Okay, assign automatically. Here, let's try it again. Did it work?
It worked. Why don't you put yourself in a room so you can participate with the group?
Are you in a room?
I'm going to stay here and not be in a room.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me find a room.
Great.
All right, I'm going to join group one here. At first I have to find myself. Where am I? Where am I? I'm not even listed. Oh, that's so weird. I'll figure it out.
Is it time for people to come back?
19 seconds.
Oh, hello. Oh, you're on mute, Jerry.
I had to open up my iPad and make myself a different person so I could join a room. I don't know how to do it otherwise. No.
Oh, well, that was a great hack. I'm glad you did that. That's great.
Who did you become, Jerry?
I became my evil twin.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Good to see you land back. I hope it was nice to connect with one another and respond to some of the questions and share some thinking. Any brief takeaways? Can anyone share? Was there something in there, as Julia shared earlier, was there something in there that did resonate for you in Alden Salavi's words? Any thoughts?
Nice.
What's that?
Bernice Copeland.
For me, it was together we will build this world into a temple of justice and peace. And I think that resonates in most of my relationships, friendships, connection to the folks at RS. Mm-hmm. So I think that line was the most, that line resonated most with me.
Thank you, Jamie. Alice?
So in our group, we started by saying, well, the psalm didn't touch us that much, though Ellen was in our group and she did feel moved by it. But then we spent the rest of the time getting to know each other, which wasn't perhaps the assignment, but now I'm thinking that's what it's all, that was meaningful to me. We were connecting with each other. It was lovely. It was wonderful.
That's great. So you brought the psalm to life.
I think so, yeah.
Beautiful. I'd like to share another psalm, which is another modern day work, a modern day psalmist. This comes from Debbie Perlman, who is a woman who was just an active member of a congregation who just started finding words and created eventually a book of modern day psalms. She wrote a lot during a time of illness, and actually she died in the year 2002. But until then, she really had become a spiritual poet, a committed member of both the local and international Jewish community, and her words of struggle and praise reached many thousands of people faced with illness, suffering, disability, and loss. And so I wanted to share one of her pieces. If Psalm 121 helped us into perhaps some thinking around some of our fear and concern and anxiety, and Alden Salavi's Psalm of Giving Thanks helped us into some gratitude. Here is one where I thought, for me, one of the words that comes to mind about this time of the pandemic is healing. And there's something I think of healing in here. And so I'm going to screen share some Debbie Perlman. All right. So this is, and she numbers each psalm. So she calls this 145, a song of healing, from Flames to Heaven, New Psalms for Healing and Praise by Debbie Perlman. Would somebody like to read? There are 2 slides on this too. If you'd like to read, you can just unmute and go right ahead.
Soothe away my fears, Holy One. Order these difficult days. Praising you, I reach for healing, holding close your constancy. In between each today and tomorrow, arrange my move toward wholeness. bring your strength to my need, a mending and a healing, true and straight. Every day stronger, I bless you. Small steps to complete healing. Trusting you, I accommodate these changes, helped by skilled hands, embraced by love and concern, resting in your care.
Okay, thank you, Siddhavi. I'm going to bring this into the chat in case that was helpful. All right, any thoughts on her words? Any thoughts on Debbie Perlman's words?
I noticed a similarity to the part about God being with you from that first one we read.
Beautiful. Ellen.
I was very touched by this poem, this psalm, and the part about mending. Well, if you're mending something, that means something is broken or it's ripped apart. And so that idea of bringing back the wholeness, I just thought was very touching.
Mm. And that image of repair is interesting in our tradition, because my next question now will be, do we see anything from Jewish memory in this poem? Muriel.
Well, I was looking at it and thinking, wow, this could be one of our prayers for healing for Friday night. I just found it beautiful.
Oh, interesting.
I haven't answered yet to what was your first question?
That's okay. I'll just take that comment. I was just asking if anyone had a point of Jewish memory in here: creation, redemption, revelation. I think it may be less obvious in this one, but I think the idea of mending and repair could relate to redemption. Great to see you, Madeline. All right. I want to get to one more psalm. All right. So we are very privileged to have all kinds of gifts and talents and purposes among us, including Ellen Poster, who is developing a psalmist side, which is beautiful. And so let's share some of Ellen's words, which she, of course, gave me permission to share. All right. Thoughts on Psalms 1 and 2 by Ellen Poster, published in When We Turned Within, Volume 2, Reflections on COVID-19, which is so interesting. I think even just the title picks up on some of the observations some of you made about this period. That this, for some of us, was a period of turning within and of some kind of growth. Ellen, would you like to read your words?
Oh, thank you. Pink begonias, yellow lilies, and purple pansies, the street's delight, with roots as pale and fine as baby's hair. I planted deep in the window box and watered well. Will they survive these wild winds tonight? I fear a morning with death in sight. Upended as I am by COVID's hand, I seek to root myself in you. I have felt your abundant mercy in my life. Have I felt your anger too? Is it fast or slow? Do you laugh or weep? Have I broken your cords, or do you seek my redress? A therapist once told me weeping is anger suppressed. I accept the mystery. Your presence brings peace in the midst of distress.
Ellen, thank you. I think it's interesting to bring our questions to Ellen's psalm here. What, if anything, do you see of Jewish memory? Now, what's interesting is the title already gives us a sense that this is rooted in something of text that already exists, right? Because it's thoughts on Psalms 1 and 2. But as we look at the text, is there anything that calls to those points of Jewish memory, creation, revelation, redemption?
Well, there's creation in the planting and the tending.
Yeah. I think so too. And for me, it's also the description is so beautiful, and it's this appreciation. It doesn't just say flowers, right? It's this appreciation for all of these different distinct kinds of creations. And so we learn in holidays like Tu B'Shvat and in other Jewish thought that it's not only just creation as a whole, but part of appreciating creation as a whole is actually appreciating all of the distinctions, how each of these species might be different. Anything else of Jewish memory here?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Can I speak?
Yes.
So what I'm seeing is, yes, there's creation, but it's also the after creation. And I hadn't thought of it this way before, but the fragility of it, how we are set into life, but then there are no guarantees in it. There's some risk. And so will they survive these wild winds tonight? I fear a morning with death in sight. I thought that's a very interesting addition to my thoughts of creation.
Thank you.
I find in the very last line is just absolutely redemption.
I accept the mystery. Your presence brings peace in the midst of distress. That's interesting. I see redemption in that too, but I also see a layer of revelation in that line, because I accept the mystery. It's like the mystery in God's presence. That's part of what's revealed in Torah. And that's part of not just the one-time revelation at Mount Sinai, but our constant ongoing longing and journey to understand God. And so that was one of the lines that captured my imagination too.
But I think that we can't have whatever redemption from whomever has to include acceptance, or you can't be redeemed without acceptance. I find that in the word accept even more than revelation.
And it's so hard for so many of us. Acceptance is one of those tough ones.
Yeah.
Okay, I put the poem in the chat for one last
gorgeous poem. Gorgeous poem.
We could see each other and we could see the words. Ellen, thank you for having the courage to write and to share it with us. And thank you for inspiring us in so many ways.
Thanks, Rabbi.
To conclude, I want to say thank you, and also just offer a prayer for us to continue to seek out meaning, both in what's left of this pandemic experience and in what we take into this next chapter of our lives. May we find strength and inspiration in the words of our tradition, and may we find strength and inspiration both from God and with God, and also in friendship with each other. Amen.